The letter I never sent. Have you ever held onto words for so long that they became a burden? Not just any words, but words that once burned in your chest, that fought to be released, that begged to be spoken, only for you to swallow them down, bury them beneath time, beneath pride, beneath fear? Have you ever written a letter, your heart laid bare, your soul spilled out onto the page, only to fold it up, set it aside, and whisper to yourself, tomorrow, I'll send it tomorrow. But then tomorrow never came? I have. And now, after all these years, that letter still sits exactly where I left it. A single sheet of paper, worn at the edges, a little yellowed with age, ink that once ran wet and sure, now faded, softened by time. It rests in the bottom of a drawer, forgotten by the world, but never forgotten by me. There were days I almost sent it, days when my fingers trembled over the envelope, when my heart pounded so hard in my chest that it felt impossible not to act. But something always held me back, a whisper in the back of my mind. Not today, not yet, maybe tomorrow. Then one day I woke up, and tomorrow was no longer an option. I don't even know why I'm telling this story now. Maybe because regret is a heavy thing, and I've carried this weight for far too long. Maybe because I wonder if someone out there, someone listening, has their own letter, unsent, hidden away in a drawer or a pocket or the back of their mind. And maybe, just maybe, this time, before it's too late, someone else will have the courage that I didn't. I should have sent it. I should have sent it. But I didn't. And so here I am, left with nothing but the story of the letter I never sent. It started on an evening just like this. Have you ever met someone who changed you without even trying? Someone whose presence alone made the world feel brighter, lighter, like even the worst days weren't so bad because they were there? I did, and for the longest time, I thought they'd always be there. Let me take you back. Back to when things were simple. Back before regret became my closest companion. I was younger then. We both were. The kind of young where you believe nothing can touch you, where time stretches out in front of you like an endless road, and you never once stop to think that it might have an end. And they were the kind of person who left fingerprints on your soul. Their name still tastes familiar on my tongue, though I rarely say it anymore. Not out loud anyway. I can still see them. The way they'd flick their hair out of their face when they were annoyed. The way their eyes lit up when they talked about something they loved. Whether it was a stupid TV show, a song they'd heard once and couldn't get out of their head, or a dream they weren't sure they'd ever reach. And their laugh. God, that laugh. You don't forget a sound like that. It wasn't delicate. It wasn't careful. It was wild. The kind of laugh that erupted out of them, completely unfiltered. A laugh that made you laugh, even if you didn't get the joke. They had this way of making everything feel important. A walk to the corner store at midnight to buy snacks felt like an adventure. Sitting in the back of a rundown cafe, talking about life, felt like we were rewriting the rules of the universe. And I loved them for that. I loved them. Not in the way people write about in romance novels, though maybe it was love in a way. Maybe not the kind you confess under moonlight, but the kind that stays in your bones even when the person is gone. I never told them, not really, but I should have. I remember one night in particular. It's funny how memory works. Some things blur over time, fade into the background noise of life. But some moments, they stay. They carve themselves into you. And this one is etched into me. It was late, later than it should have been. The streets were quiet except for the occasional hum of a distant car. The streetlights flickered, casting long golden shadows on the pavement. We were walking side by side in that comfortable silence we always had, and then, out of nowhere, they stopped. Just stopped. I turned to them, confused. What? They tilted their head back, looking up at the sky. The stars were out, scattered across the darkness like spilled diamonds. Do you ever think about the stars? They asked. I laughed. You think about everything. They smiled, but there was something in their eyes, something far away. No, I mean, do you ever wonder if they're looking back at us? I didn't know what to say to that. So I just watched them. The way the light touched their face, the way the wind lifted their hair, the way, for a moment, the entire world seemed to hold its breath around them. And in that second, I wanted to say something. I wanted to say, "You're the brightest star I've ever known." I wanted to say, "You matter. You are enough. You always have been." I wanted to say, "I love you," but I didn't. Instead, I just smiled and said, "Maybe." And we kept walking. I didn't know it then. I didn't know that life was already pulling us in different directions, that there were already cracks forming beneath the surface, cracks I refused to see. I thought we had time, but time is a liar. One day, they were here, and the next, they weren't. And that's where everything changed. That's where this story really begins. Because long after they were gone, after the world kept moving and everyone else seemed to forget, I found the letter, the one I had written to them, the one I never sent, and I wonder if they had read it, would anything have been different? You never realize when a moment is the last moment, not until it's too late, not until you're looking back, retracing every step, trying to find the exact second when everything started slipping away. And the worst part? I still don't know when it happened. Was it the day we had that stupid argument? Words sharp like knives, cutting deeper than we intended? Was it the day they stopped answering my messages and I convinced myself they were just busy? Was it the day I looked at them and felt something different? Not love, not hate, just distance? I don't know. But I do know this. Something changed. And I didn't fight it. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have said something when I felt the space growing between us. But I didn't. Instead, I let time do what time does best. I let it take. At first, it was little things. Messages left unread. Plans that never quite worked out. Excuses, ones that sounded real enough, but I knew better. We were drifting, and I told myself it was normal, that people change, that this was just how it goes. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was losing them, and I did nothing. And then, one night, I sat down with a pen and paper. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was fear, maybe it was just missing them too much to pretend I didn't. But the words came easily. I told them everything, how much they meant to me, how sorry I was for the silence, for the distance, how I should have fought harder to keep them close, how I wished we could go back to the late night talks, to the laughter, to the version of us that wasn't broken. And for the first time in a long time, I felt relief. I folded the letter carefully, like it was something fragile, and I told myself, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll send it. Tomorrow I'll fix this. Tomorrow I'll make it right. But tomorrow never came. Days passed, then weeks, then months. And the letter? It stayed right where I left it, tucked away in a drawer, gathering dust. Unsent, unread, forgotten. And by the time I wanted to send it, by the time I realized just how much I had lost, they were gone, gone in a way that meant there were no more tomorrows, and I was left with nothing but a letter that no one would ever read, a letter filled with words that came too late, a letter I never sent, and that's the thing about regret. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It follows you, quiet and relentless, replaying the what-ifs over and over again. And no matter how much time passes, it never really leaves. Regret is a strange thing. It doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in quietly, like a shadow stretching longer and longer as the sun begins to set. At first, it was just an ache, a dull, persistent ache that settled in my chest, small enough to ignore but impossible to forget. I'd think about them now and then. I'd tell myself I should reach out, I should check in, but then something would come up, a meeting, a chore, a message I meant to reply to but never did. I'd say, tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, but then tomorrow would come, and I wouldn't. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and then, one day, it was too late. I remember the exact moment I found out. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a thunderclap of realization. It was quiet, almost unassuming. Maybe it was a phone call, a number I hadn't seen in a long time, ringing at an odd hour. I picked up, half listening at first, distracted by something insignificant, until I heard the words, until I felt my stomach drop, my fingers go numb, my heart stop. Maybe it was a social media post, one of those photos framed in black, surrounded by words like rest in peace, like gone too soon, like fly high. Or maybe I saw them one last time, on the street, across a crowded cafe, in a moment so brief I almost thought I imagined it. But they weren't the same. They had moved on. They had built a life without me in it. And I stood there, frozen, realizing just how far away we had drifted. Or maybe I searched for them after all those years. I finally typed their name into the search bar, my fingers trembling. I hit enter. I expected to see their face, their smile, proof that they were still out there, waiting for me to find them. But there was nothing. No profile, no trace, just absence, gone, just like that. And suddenly, time folded in on itself. Suddenly, I was right back in that moment, sitting in my room, staring at that letter, telling myself tomorrow. But there was no tomorrow, not anymore. I remember walking over to my drawer. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the handle, fingers barely touching the wood, as if opening it, seeing it, would make it real. I swallowed hard, trying to push away the lump forming in my throat. And then, slowly, I pulled it open. There it was, still folded, still sealed, the edges slightly worn, the ink faded just a little, but still there, untouched, unopened, mocking me. I picked it up. My fingers trembled as I traced the writing on the envelope. Their name, just their name. The way I had written it so carefully, as if I thought that making it perfect would somehow make the words inside easier to say. I sat down on the edge of my bed, my chest tight, my mind racing. For a long time, I just held it. I don't know how long I sat there. Minutes, hours, time didn't seem to move. Finally, I unfolded the paper, and for the first time, I read it out loud. Hey, I don't know why this is so hard to say. I guess I've always been afraid of being too honest, of saying something I can't take back. But I miss you. I miss the way we used to talk about everything and nothing. I miss your laugh. I miss us. And I hate that I let the silence grow between us. I should have reached out. I should have fought harder. I should have told you how much you meant to me. So, I'm telling you now, I care about you more than I've ever said. And I hope it's not too late. But it was too late, and as I sat there, reading those words meant for someone who would never hear them, regret wrapped itself around me, heavy and unrelenting. Do you know what it feels like to hold something in your hands that could have changed everything? If only you had acted sooner, to realize that the chance you thought you had would never come again, to know that the words you kept locked inside will stay locked forever? I thought saying the words out loud would bring relief, but all it did was remind me of what I had lost. If only I had sent it, if only If this story made you think of someone, don't wait. Right now, this very moment, I want you to take out your phone, call them, text them, tell them what's on your heart. And if you can't find the words to say, then write them a letter. And this time, send it. Because once the moment is gone, it's gone forever. And if this message resonated with you, if you felt something while listening, then don't let this be the last time. Subscribe to the channel, because here we talk about the things that matter. We share the stories that make you think, the stories that stay with you. Leave a like if this touched your heart, and comment below, who is the one person you would write a letter to today? Let's start a conversation, because sometimes a single message, a single moment, can change everything. Thank you for listening. And remember, some words shouldn't be left unsaid.